2 in the Canadian Supercross Series. It's great to be in BC Place Stadium in Vancouver, where the weather conditions will be absolutely perfect. It snowed in Calgary, and it's raining outside here, but conditions under the dome, just the way the riders like it, hot and dry. And this was heat number 1.
Great battle here in the first heat. Steve Visser, number 8, Darren Sharuga, number 4 on the Suzuki. They really went at it in this opening heat, but here is where the heat race was won. Sharuga comes up on the outside to challenge. Visser gets out of shape right off the racetrack. Sharuga goes on to win heat 1.
And that hay bale just simply wouldn't give up that fight. Now, this was heat number 2.
Ross Peterson, number 1, chasing the early leader, Glenn Nicholson, 29. Both riders up on Yamahas. Nicholson did a good job here in the opening laps, but Peterson, determined, did finally get around Nicholson to take the win. Glenn Nicholson, number 29, who has really improved this year, racing full-time in 1986, comes through the finish second.
Ross Peterson really wanting a victory here in Vancouver.
Peterson showing his Supercross championship form here in this heat as he won it in convincing fashion.
And this was heat number 3, and it belonged to the sweeper, Doug Hoover.
Hoover just went at it right from the opening lap, pulled out a tremendous lead, and was never really challenged in that third qualifying heat as he transferred directly to the final.
Doug Hoover looking very, very smooth and very confident in his heat here under the dome at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver in the Vancouver Supercross. Now, heat number 4, and this sounds like a law firm. Carson, Larson, and Dick should be the favorites, and were the favorites in heat number 4.
This was perhaps the most exciting of our 4 qualifying heats. Alan Dick, who has really come on as well this year, having raced in the Golden State Series earlier this year, starting in this 4th heat, and it's a real charge into the first turn. 54, Michael Larson, Dick, number 7, and Tom Carson, number 69, were the 3 riders who got out, broke away from the rest of the field, and really put on a display of Supercross racing. Larson, 54, your leader. Carson, 69, in second, and Dick, number 7, back there in third.
Tremendous air on the part of Larson right there.
Larson is really going hard here on the opening lap, trying to open up a bit of a ground on Carson, 69, but Carson just would not let him get away, and number 7, Dick, was right there as well. The fans were on their feet. There's your leader, Larson, followed by Carson, and then Dick right back there in the number 3 spot.
Now, it looks to me as if they're taking different lines.
Larson, as he doubles those rocker jumps, was able to pull out a few bike lengths here on Carson, 69.
Let's go back to the start, and you can see the early battle between these 2 riders.
Larson, number 54, taking the rockers there one at a time, but here's Carson, number 69, doing the same, and right at the end of the rockers, Larson takes the lead by doubling the last couple of jumps and leads it through turn 2.
Now, why was Larson able to take 2 and Carson only 1?
Larson got a better drive coming onto that straightaway. He is a small rider, stands about 5'7", and as far as power to weight on the motorcycle, he has a little bit of an advantage over Carson and Dick, who are riders that are a little heavier, a little bigger. Here is Dick. He has gotten around Carson in a second and trying to chase down number 54, Mike Larson. Now, Larson has gone so hard here in the opening laps. I think he's getting a little bit tired here in the closing laps of this heat. Alan Dick is able to get around and take the lead.
Alan Dick, a local boy from Abbotsford, BC, really wants to win here under the dome at BC Place Stadium.
Dick getting tremendous air off the jumps. Larson not going quite as high off that jump as he was in the opening laps. He is tiring somewhat. Dick continues to charge here with just a couple of laps to go.
This was by far and away the most competitive of the 4 qualifying heats.
Alan Dick, of course, with a lot of fans in the stadium here cheering him on. Larson, 54, in second, and Carson, 69, was right there in third. Of course, any mistake here, and Dick could lose the lead, but here is where he took the lead in these series of rocker jumps. He doubles that pair, gets ahead of Larson, and then will lead him into this right-handed switchback turn, but again, simply working those series of jumps better than Michael Larson.
I thought it was a case of Dick controlling the bike instead of him having the bike control him.
Well, Alan Dick stands about 6'2", 6'3". He uses those long legs as part of the suspension on that Yamaha, and right now he's opened it up to about 12 to 15 bike lengths on Mike Larson.
Alan Dick continuing to go well and ride well in the fourth qualifying heat of the Vancouver Supercross.
Dick, of course, we mentioned, started racing this year in early January out in California in that Golden State Series. Had a couple of fine finishes, and I think it was a big confidence builder for him to go down there and run with some of the top riders from the United States. Mike Larson, 54, who was 8th here a year ago in the Vancouver Supercross, looking to improve on that finish here this year. And he has had a good run going in this heat race, but at this point, about 15 bike lengths back of leader Alan Dick.
Mike Larson, who told us before the qualifying race, he liked this course. He liked this track. He thought he could do well here.
Well, he got out very quickly off the start, but he's not been able to stay with Alan Dick. And, of course, conditioning so much a factor in Supercross racing. We're seeing perhaps a display of that right here, where Dick can keep the pace going through the entire heat race. Larson has to pace himself a little bit here in the closing laps. He knows he's got a qualifying position running in the number 2 slot. He's perhaps saving a little bit for the final.
Alan Dick now starting to lap some of the slower riders in this fourth qualifying heat.
He'll be very cautious here going around some of the lap riders. If that rider moves off his racing line right into the path of Dick, he can find himself into the hay bales in a hurry.
And, of course, it becomes much more difficult for Dick to find his line.
Dick, of course, will try some different lines over the course now. As soon as he has some clear racetrack, he'll experiment with some different lines through the turns that he can use later on in the evening once they run the final.
Alan Dick continuing to go well in this fourth qualifying heat. Good air there.
Really getting the good drive off that big jump. And again, you can see Dick as he uses the long legs for advantage here over these series of rocker jumps up and down on the seat, really working the arms, that left leg down through the turn. There's the checkered flag, and our winner of Heat 4, Alan Dick.
And there's Larson coming in to take second place.
Tommy Carson, number 69, closed on Michael Larson on the last lap, but he finishes in third. Carson will earn a spot in the final.
And there are the final standings for heat number 4 in the Vancouver Supercross. Alan Dick winning it, followed by Mike Larson and Tom Carson.
Last rider into turn 1.
Right now, we've got 25 riders who are set to go 15 laps in the final of the Vancouver Supercross, and each and every one of them, I will guarantee you this, is looking for a good start. Now let's take a look at some of the favorites, Pat.
Alan Dick finished 5th at the Calgary season opener. He rides Yamaha.
Mike Larson from Bremerton in the state of Washington. He enjoyed a very good season in the California Series just recently completed.
Darren Chiruga, Calgary, Alberta. He rides the bright yellow Suzuki.
This is a 19-year-old from the province of Alberta, Steve Visser, riding a Honda.
Ross Peterson, 3rd in Calgary, looking for his first win this year.
And from Mississauga, the current Ontario 250cc champion, Glenn Nicholson.
Doug Hoover, 2nd a year ago behind Ross Peterson. He was 2nd in Calgary.
Jeff Serwall, who was 5th in the Canadian Supercross Championship Series last year. He's from Loretto, Ontario.
There's some of your other top riders in the final. Tommy Carson, Mike Fisher, Arnaud Bernard, Gabby Gregoire, Jeff Sutherland from Ontario, and Ted Van Ness.
And we should point out that in order to pick up points in the Canadian Supercross Series, you really have to be a Canadian.
And points go to the top 15 riders.
Now, we're set for the start, the final of the Vancouver Supercross.
Everybody away cleanly into turn number 1. Larson, 54. We've got a couple of riders going down. That is number 3, Jeff Serwall, who dropped the Kawasaki there in turn 1, but Mike Larson has grabbed the early lead. Peterson's going after him.
Ross Peterson talked about the importance of a good start for him in the final. Did he get a good start?
This is a good start for Peterson. Larson really got the whole shot and is riding very aggressively here off the start. You can see just how quickly he's moving up through that section, but Peterson Peterson is going right after him. Alan Dick, number 7 there in third. This is a good battle in the opening lap. Peterson trying to chase down Mike Larson, but Larson is really twisting the throttle on that Honda as he sprints away from Peterson.
Mike Larson getting tremendous air on all these jumps.
Larson is trying to open up a bit of a cushion here in the opening laps. He knows he's got to get away in a hurry.
Now let's go back and take a look at that start, which Ross Peterson said would be so critical.
Larson gets out quickly here. He'll be the first rider into the number 1 turn. Visser, number 8, is right there as well. Serwall going down in traffic, but it is Larson who gets out of there with the lead. And Peterson in second.
Now, I think it's important for Ross Peterson, if he has any hopes of winning this Vancouver Supercross final, to maintain contact with Larson.
Larson is trying to open up and break away from Peterson, and there you can see the margin. It is about 25 bike lengths at this point, but remember, Larson had problems in his heat. He got out very quickly, opened up a bit of a lead, but then tired towards the end of the heat. They're going 15 laps here as opposed to 7 in the heat. Larson's still got a long, long way to go, and Peterson is right there. He can still see Larson. He'll try to work up closer to the leader here within the next few laps.
We mentioned in the heats that Larson is a small rider compared to the stature of a Ross Peterson, who is 6'1", 185 pounds. He is able to control his bike, whereas Larson really has the bike control him, and that takes an awful lot out of him.
Well, some of the bigger riders on these tighter courses can muscle the machine through some of these big jumps and over the whoop-de-doos. Larson has had a good season so far. You mentioned in the California series with a couple of second-place finishes in 500cc competition and actually won a 250cc event out in California earlier this year. And he's leading the way here in the early going. He was 8th a year ago, and he wants the win, but that margin is starting to close up somewhat. You can see Peterson has chopped about 10 bike lengths off of Larson's lead. Larson not nearly as aggressive through this section as he was for the first couple of laps. He does double the last set of rockers there, but Peterson has made up ground. There you can see he has made up about 10 bike lengths in that one section alone, and there's Larson having problems over that big jump. He'll lose further ground here as Peterson continues to reel him in.
Look at the way Larson is thrown around on the bike when he comes off of those jumps. That has got to be taking something up.
Look at the riding technique between the two riders. Larson is out of shape off some of the jumps. Peterson is looking very smooth, very much more in control on the motorcycle. He's to win in just 3 or 4 bike lengths.
Peterson's so very, very competitive and riding so confidently right now. He's gaining ground on Larson.
Well, I think the change to Yamaha was a good one for Ross, as he mentioned. It's given him new impetus to go after riders like 54, and here he is right on the inside of Larson. He'll take the lead. A beautiful pass on the inside. You could see Peterson was working towards the leader over the last couple of laps, and he made a nice pass there on the inside.
A very critical move on the part of Ross Peterson against Mike Larson. Here it is.
Larson coming up. He's having difficulty in this section, although he does double that section and gets out of shape. He lands on the front wheel, loses momentum. Peterson drives through on the inside, closes right up on Larson. Larson does not have the momentum coming up onto this section. Peterson dives through on the inside. Larson goes wide, and it's Peterson into the lead.
And right there, I think Ross Peterson has stolen the line.
He got through on the inside. Larson tries to come back up onto Peterson, but he just cannot get around, as again, Peterson was the faster rider through that section.
So Ross Peterson, our new leader in the Vancouver Supercross final, riding very, very well at this point and lapping now some of the slower riders as he goes high into the burn. On lap number 10, just over 5 to go. Peterson running at the same pace he was on the opening laps, and here's the conditioning coming into play. Peterson running very strong. He's able to turn the same kind of lap times each time through. Some of the other riders who are not in peak condition are having problems maintaining their lap times, and that is where Peterson has really come on very strong here. Larson still holding on to that second place position, although he has looked out of shape a number of times here in the last couple of laps and almost crashed a couple of times, but still holding on to that number 2 spot. But there's Alan Dick as he is closing on Larson now over this series of double jumps.
And
At this stage in the race, Ross Peterson has to be very, very careful. He is lapping some of the other riders. But now we've got a battle between Dick and Larson. Dick taking the lead.
Dick goes into second place. Larson losing that second place position right where he lost the lead to Peterson. But he does come back up on the outside if Dick goes back into second. This is a great battle. The kind of action we have seen in the Supercross racing here at Vancouver before. This is your race for second place. Bremerton, Washington's Michael Larson, Alan Dick, number 7, and Dick is going right after him.
And again, it's the battle between the taller, stronger rider, Dick, against the smaller, weaker rider, Larson.
Look at the legs of Alan Dick. They're acting as two pistons, actually part of the suspension, as Dick on that Yamaha goes after Michael Larson on the Honda. And again, Dick coming up here to challenge for the lead over the doubles. Larson doubles, as does Dick, and manages to hold on to the lead. Larson knows he's really got to let it all hang out here. Otherwise, he's going to lose that second place position. But Dick is right there. And as they come back into this section here where Dick has looked very good, he does close it back up on Larson again.
Look at the difference in styles as they go through the rockers.
Back to the leader, Ross Peterson, as he has opened up a bit of a cushion on that second place battle between Michael Larson and Alan Dick.
Now, what's Peterson thinking? Is he saying, do I attack this course? Do I remain aggressive, or can I sit back and sort of coast?
Right now, Peterson is going to be somewhat cautious in lapping the slower riders, but again, he's trying to be as smooth as possible out there on the machine, not trying to go too radical, as they say, and crash, because if he's to crash at this point, Dick and Larson will be right by him in a hurry. They're not all that far behind, although Peterson does have a bit of a cushion right now.
Peterson's sort of got to maintain his momentum, maintain his rhythm.
He's trying to keep composure here. We're into the closing laps. Here's that race for second. Dick has finally got around Larson, and Larson has got part of the banners hooked up in the rear wheel of his motorcycle. And again, you can see him getting right out of shape coming off that jump. Dick is pulling away now from Larson. He appears to be one tired rider at this point in the race.
Alan Dick, certainly the sentimental favorite here at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver. He comes from Abbotsford, not too far from the stadium in downtown Vancouver, and he's got the hometown support.
Dick has really come on this year. I think if there's a rider who is going to knock off Peterson for the Supercross championship, it will be Alan Dick.
There's the defending Canadian Supercross champion, Ross Rollerball Peterson, and he's going very smooth right now.
There you can see the mechanics with their signboards. They communicate to the riders, letting them know exactly how big a lead they have, what position they're on, what lap they're on, because once the rider gets out there, other than getting that last lap flag, he's not exactly sure which lap he's on, other than from the communication from the pit board. There's Peterson. He got a little bit out of shape off that jump, but recovered nicely. Continuing to lead here in the Vancouver Supercross. The track getting very rutted up now. Peterson trying some different lines, trying to find the smoothest way possible around the racetrack.
Early in the race, Peterson seemed to be just sort of feeling his way. He certainly seems to have gotten into the rhythm now and is going very, very well.
Just getting around Jeff Serwall, their number 3 on the Kawasaki, as he puts the Loretto, Ontario rider a lap down. But Peterson still running very strongly here. Dick, number 7 in second. Mike Larson running in that third place position.
Again, Peterson getting instructions from his mechanic, just exactly how far he has to go, how he's going, giving him as much information as he can on that chalkboard.
Well, that chalkboard will tell Peterson it'll show a +8 or a +9, depending on how many seconds he is ahead of the second place rider. If that margin gets much closer, Peterson will have to gas it back up again, but right now he is holding a comfortable lead, riding very much within himself.
Less than 2 laps to go for Ross Peterson, who did not win here in 1985. That title went to Jeff Hicks, and I know Ross wants to win badly in BC.
He's on his way. He's just got about 2 laps to go. Looking very good over this section.
Ross Peterson coming off a couple of bad injuries over the last 2 or 3 years and making a strong comeback. Last lap now for Ross Peterson.
This is where he's going to really have to watch the back marker traffic here with less than a lap to go. Right now he's got a clear racetrack ahead of him, but there are some slower riders about 10 to 15 bike lengths ahead of him that he will be lapping here on the final lap. Ross Peterson through into this left-hand switchback turn, up over onto the tabletop. Back through the second switchback turn, coming up here on Mike Fisher. He will put Fisher a lap down.
Now Dick has made up some ground. He's not that far back.
Well, Peterson perhaps cooling it a little bit too much here with a couple of laps to go, and Dick has really put on a charge. There is Peterson, there is Dick. He's got just a couple of corners to go, but Dick is on the charge. Peterson is in traffic. Alan Dick closing. It's down to about 5 bike lengths.
Can he catch him?
Dick on the inside. The checkered flag about to come out. It'll be Peterson winning. Dick right behind him in second. Boy, did that get close on the last lap. There are the two Yamaha teammates celebrating. Peterson, your winner.
And what a great ride from Ross Peterson. And this was the critical move in the race for Rollerball against Mike Larson. He comes into the turn. Now watch him. He takes the inside. Larson is forced to the outside simply because he can't control his bike. And then again, Ross Peterson makes the same move on this turn, and from this point on, it was all Ross Peterson in the final of the Vancouver Supercross. And for Ross Peterson, the defending Canadian Supercross champion, it was his first ever victory in BC Place Stadium.
With the happy winner of the Vancouver Supercross, Ross Peterson. Ross, it got a little closer than I think you would have liked there at the end.
Yeah, I stretched out a nice lead about halfway through, and then we started to get near the end of the race, and I started to catch up to the tail enders. They were getting a little bit tired and starting to wander on the track, and I was coming up on them, and I had to be a lot careful coming up to them. I was very cautious.
Your win out here tonight gives you the points lead going to Montreal. I think that's the position you really wanted to be going to the Big O.
Yeah, that's right. After Calgary's mud bath out there, I didn't have the best results I'd like to have, and you know, this year's been going really well with Yamaha, and I've had my best year ever, and I just wanted to show them I was still left in me, and we're going into Montreal with a nice lead now. I don't know how much, but I'm in the lead, and that's the main thing.
Were you surprised at how well Mike Larson ran there in the early laps? It took you a little while to get around him.
Yeah, Mike rode really well. He just let it all hang out at the beginning of the race, and I was a little bit more cautious than he was, and I had to learn the track a little bit there for a couple laps, and then I started to move and made my pass on him, but what concerned me was Alan Dick.
Okay, Ross, a great win out here tonight. All the best at the Big O in Montreal.
Thank you very much.
So the one they call the Rollerball, Ross Peterson wins the Vancouver Supercross, followed by Alan Dick and Mike Larson in for third. The standings after 2 races in the Canadian